what we're having the most success with is just doing things to encourage customers to stay longer. Moving people to subscription has been really important for us. Despite our growth, and we've had significant growth, we've been able to maintain about in a range around 17% of our revenue comes from subscription, and we found that when we make it easy for parents, that they stick because the products are great. The hard part that we found with DTC is that for a lot of busy moms and dads, frankly, they're shopping more in the store than they are online. And this is part of our, rationale for making a strong move into retail, so we can just make it easy for parents out there.
Welcome to Winning at Work, the podcast for foodies, founders, and food and beverage professionals. If you wanted to discover a new brand, a new food or beverage to try, there are literally thousands of companies out there. It is very difficult to do that. That's why we curate the different, the better, and the special brands here each and every week, so you don't have to do the heavy lifting. If you're a founder and you're looking to connect with other like-minded executives, we make that very easy. And if you just work in the food and beverage industry and you're looking for fresh inspiration, we have that here in spades.
This episode is sponsored by Temple. Congratulations, you're selling in retail. But the competition is fierce and your brand is surrounded by similar products. How will consumers find you? Let Temple show you an innovative retail sales solution. Click on the Attract Consumers link below. Need to attract great employees? Click on the Hire Now below and we'll show you how to use your culture to help you stand out. Stay tuned for this week's episode.
Welcome to Winning at Work. It's Tony, everybody. The perfect pairing for foodies and founders. Growing up, I have to say, it wasn't very obvious to me if this was going on. But as a kid, I really did not notice, and I didn't have any friends, I didn't hear stories of kids who suffered from allergies. But as I got older, I started having kids. My kids are in school. I'm getting, exposed to more and more people and more families. And then coworkers, I've heard some very unfortunate stories of this. I probably call it an epidemic, really, at this point. And I love when I find a brand that is working to solve what I think is a needed problem in the world. And today I'm going to be talking with JJ Jackson. He's the co-founder of Mission Mighty Me. And really what they're focused on is this research with one of their partners, Dr. Gideon Lack. And he's been doing some groundbreaking work on something called LEAP, L-E-A-P, Learning Early About Peanut Allergy. It's a study that has shown that when certain foods are introduced into a child's life early on, it prevents, and in some cases can protect that child from problems in the future. And I'm really excited to talk with JJ here, a former, I should say, a native Atlantan as well. JJ, welcome into the program today.
Well, I'm glad to be here, Tony. Really appreciate you having me.
I don't meet too many true, genuine Atlantans, or I should say Southerners. I did say genuine Atlantan. Maybe you're not, but I think you guys are.
Well, my wife and co-founder, Catherine, grew up in Atlanta, but
That's right.
I actually grew up in a tiny little town in Alabama called Eufaula. But we've been in Atlanta.
You're from Eufaula?
I'm from Eufaula. Yep.
That is, folks, if you're ever driving down to the Panhandle, you have to go through Eufaula. It is literally like stepping back 150 years. The most gorgeous. Well, you should tell us better than me. Tell us about Eufaula. It's amazing.
It is. It's a beautiful little town that I feel like was just a wonderful place to grow up. It's almost like a little slice of Mayberry with that true small town lifestyle where everybody knows each other. And
the architecture, though, too, when you drive through.
Beautiful old homes that have all been very carefully and lovingly maintained and restored. It's a really neat place.
And the bass fishermen know that area very well. It's known for incredible bass fishing. So
exactly, that's exactly right.
Before we get into the business side of this, tell us more about Mission Mighty Me.
Yeah, sure, Tony. So Mission Mighty Me makes foods that make it super easy for parents to follow pediatric feeding guidelines that now encourage parents to get peanuts and tree nuts and other common food allergens into children's diets super early and to just keep them in the diet so that those food allergies never develop. We make these, our first product, we basically took peanuts, cashews, almonds, walnuts, and this beautiful hazelnut butter and turned them into these delicious little quick dissolve puff snacks that are very similar to the traditional rice puff that little ones eat all the time and are in basically every diaper bag in the country. And the kids just love them because they're delicious. They taste great, and parents love them because they're just a better snack than those rice puffs that typically are, 98% plus rice. And so it's has this powerful functional benefit of helping parents prevent food allergies from developing in their kids, but they're also just an awesome snack.
The funny thing is, when I was talking to your wife, Catherine, I said, now I know these are for kids, but she's like, no, I want to send you some samples. So She sent me some samples, and first of all, the icon, the logo of a superhero kid on the front, is kind of cute. So it obviously kind of resonates, immediately with the children. But it's funny that for a quote unquote kind of a kid snack, I kind of liked them. I mean, they have that you get it's not like a overpowering sense or flavor of like peanut. But it's there, and you could see how you're introducing it into the child's diet. Now, I have some friends that have some young kids too. So I brought these to them, and they figured out what you were doing, and they said their kids loved them too.
That's great. Well, I love that. And what we found is that we did really develop the taste around that infant toddler palate where you have to be a little careful not to be overpowering in the taste profile, but at the same time was using simple ingredients and bringing that flavor through in a way where big kids love them and parents do as well.
Yeah, because naturally, parents are going to snack on whatever the kids are eating when they're hungry. They're just, a couple end up in your hand and you eat them, and a lot of times you're like, oh. Well, I guess it's good for the kid, but I don't like it. But this was not like that. So I think it's kind of interesting. It had a profile that I think adults could definitely eat.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because it's, food, one of the premises originally of us and the products that we decided to make was that food should taste good. And when you use great ingredients and you put them together in a way that is simple, it can really shine through. So I'm glad to hear it.
So how did you get connected with or find Dr. Gideon Lack?
Yeah, sure. Well, maybe it'd be helpful for the listeners to just back up just a step, because before Mission Mighty Me, Catherine and I had never done anything in the food industry before, and we jumped into it. And we're doing this for a very specific reason. You mentioned food allergies in your intro, Tony, and most everyone we talk with feels the same way, that there are these question marks about why food allergies are so common now. And maybe they weren't when we were kids and our parents were kids and so forth. And really now at this point, 1 out of every 13 kids in the U.S. has a food allergy, which is just an astounding number when you think about it. Over 30 million Americans have a food allergy. And unfortunately, our oldest daughter is one of them. when she was born, the pediatric guidance was to not give babies any nuts until they were 3 years old. And we, being the rule followers that we are, we did exactly that. But she had a walnut when she was 3, or right up when she was 3, right on time. And she had a horrible reaction into that, and that day, really our lives changed forever. And fast forward to when her little brother was born in 2015, and the LEAP study was published, where this brilliant team in London basically discovered through clinical trials that peanut allergy can actually be prevented by getting peanut into children's diets super, super early, starting when they're starting solids around, 4 to 6 months, and to just keep it in their diet. And so for us, being a food allergy family, we wanted to do anything we possibly could to prevent him from having a food allergy like his big sister. And so we were just trying to do it. And it just sounded so simple, just feed babies nuts. What's the big deal? Until you have a 6-month-old with no teeth and you're trying to, figure out how you could possibly feed him walnut, right?
Right. You get kind of creative in the kitchen, don't you, at that point?
You have to. And, we were grinding up different nuts. We had found the mixed nut butter at Trader Joe's, and we're trying to, we'd warm it up and try and get it into his rice cereal. And it also just felt like medicine. A week would go by and we'd say, gosh, has James had his peanut this week? And it just, it
wasn't
just
a natural part
hard.
of the habit of eating.
Exactly. Which, we can get into in a little bit of, the very purposeful way that we created Mission Mighty Me and our products. But it was just something that should be so simple. We recognized through the research, because the research showed that these kids that had peanut early and consistently, they were 90% less likely to develop a food allergy, 90%. And so we were thinking about just how big of a societal impact could be had if we could just make it normal for little kiddos to be, eating peanuts and tree nuts and, other common allergens super early. And so that's really what got us going.
And that's what kind of started on your journey. And then you found that LEAP report. And then I guess from that, you started working with the doctor.
With Dr. Lack. That's exactly right. So, we had read the LEAP study that was published in the New England Journal of Medicine. Catherine, with her researcher mindset, picked it apart left and right. We knew it was something that had been heavily scrutinized and was just really groundbreaking, and that it would work if we could just make it normal. But we reached out to Dr. Gideon Lack, who was the lead author of the LEAP study. He's the one who had the hunch that this might be something that could prevent these allergies from developing. He was frustrated because it was the most clear research he'd done in 30 years of research, but he didn't feel like it was being implemented quickly enough, which is exactly right. And so he partnered with us because we said, look, we've got to have products that make it easy, and we've got to reach busy moms and dads where they are. And and not many busy moms and dads are leafing through the New England Journal of Medicine. We've got to be on Instagram and TikTok, and we've got to. Right. And we've got to do it. And this gets into, how we crafted the brand and so forth, but it's got to be approachable. It's got to be fun. It's got to be easy and all these things. So we combined together and that's really when Mission Mighty Me was born.
Well, before we get into the business side of this, the founder portion of the podcast, where can moms and dads find the product now? Where is it available?
So we're available on missionmightymE.com and also on Amazon.
Okay, so you're a direct-to-consumer DTC model right now.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
missionmightymE.com or on Amazon.
That's exactly right. Tony, we launched our very first product, our Proactive Peanut Puffs, in March of 2020. Literally as the world was shutting down. And
I can't tell you how many people I have talked to that literally started March 2020. I'm not joking. Go back and listen to like the last 30 episodes and you'll be surprised.
I believe it. I mean, we literally, second week of March 2020, and we had always planned to start out direct to consumer on our website, but we had in our business plans to immediately start reaching out to retailers, thinking that we would, move on to retail shelves within 9 months or a year or so. But when the pandemic set in, we put all retail outreach on hold and leaned into direct to consumer, and it just started working. And so we've continued to be direct to consumer and through Amazon, but we're just now starting conversations with retailers and really excited about the potential there for scale through retail.
Well, I have had many conversations with founders who are in retail. So go back and get your checkbook ready.
Right.
And buckle up for a bumpy ride.
That's right. Well, we're ready for it. I tell you, Tony, it's in some respects a bit of a blessing to have gotten to have 3 years of direct to consumer, because our messaging, our marketing, even some ways that we think about product are pretty different now than they were 3 years ago. And that ability to listen to our customers and engage with them has been so valuable, to where I really think now that, look, retail is never easy, but I feel like we're on just such a stronger footing and are able to mitigate the risks around retail launch so much better than we would have been 3 years ago.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you now really, truly understand what your product is in the eyes of the consumer. So now you can go with that confidence to the buyer, right? And present the right sell sheet.
That's exactly.
Works. Yeah. Okay.
That's right. Exactly right. And been able to see, what is it that really drives repeat customer purchasing? What creates brand loyalty, and these sort of things that we think will really shine through, not just through e-com, but also on shelf as well.
Well, you're in Atlanta. We've got Sprouts. You've got other natural chains, plus you have Whole Foods. You don't have to say who you're talking to, but I would imagine those would be some pretty obvious plays to begin with. And then as that journey continues, we can always have follow-up conversations just about, from the founder's point of view, all right, the rubber's hitting the road. Now, how are you getting that product to move? All right, so let's just focus right now then on DTC, Amazon, and any other challenges that you've been having, because that's really what you can help others with. Because many companies, they do start DTC. And I've had some excellent episodes on being successful in DTC. So I'd be kind of curious to hear your journey, the brand's journey to this point, of what some of your biggest challenges and kind of how you're solving them, what those are.
Sure. Well, I think probably the obvious one at the very beginning was when you're starting out on DTC, no one is walking past your website. And you have to get out there and find ways to be in front of those target customers. And you have to try a lot of different things. We have done a lot of different things through the digital channels, of course, social media, influencers, digital advertising, Google search engine optimization and all of these sorts of things. And our approach from the beginning, Tony, has been that, look, we've got to try a lot of different things and then just figure out which ones are working and which ones are not working, lean into the ones that are and move away from the ones that aren't. And we continue to have that mindset with all of our digital outreach.
Because that's not an issue that I have to deal with. I'm not looking on Facebook for groups or moms or dads who are dealing with this. Are there segments of people that you are now kind of joining in those groups and having conversations and building community? And maybe how is that working and how are they receptive to this?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I do think the most important thing is to know who your target audience is. And that may go without saying, but it's just so critically important. and to figure out, really who that is, and honestly surround yourself with people who are in a similar place, and talk with people about, how they're getting their information. For us, we knew from the beginning that we would be targeting that new mom and dad, primarily a new mom. And so you kind of have to look into where they're getting their information. Who are they talking with? Now, the new mom community is one who's very active on social media and through groups, and they're sponges for information. I saw recently that the new mom of a baby typically on average researches about 70% of the products that they buy for their baby, which is just an incredibly high number when you think about it. And so they're out there looking for information. They're looking for recommendations. And they have a variety of sources that they trust. They trust their pediatrician. They trust their best friends. They trust people who are on social media that have become reliable sources for true content and information. And so what we found is that by actually just talking with people who are in a similar place, similar life stage, that you can pretty quickly get some great ideas on where they're getting their information, and then just go straight to the source.
Well, since you are working with a world-renowned pediatric allergist, you've got Dr. Gideon Lack. Now, does he have any contacts or pull here in the States? Where have you been able to kind of leverage any of that network?
Yes, it's a great question. From the beginning, we looked at this from a marketing perspective as one where we would have to go and reach those new moms and dads, but primarily new moms as our customers, but also have outreach towards the pediatric community, and then ideally you bring them together. And what we found, and part of this is just for capital efficiency, because scarce resources on dollars and trying to figure out the best ways to spend it, that reaching the pediatric community is one that for brands can be very, very expensive. And because they're so used to having reps that come in and into their offices and send them product and so forth. And so, we really focused on the customer, going directly to the potential customer, encouraging them to talk to their pediatrician if they had questions. And then because the actual pediatric feeding guidelines have been changing, that change in the feeding guidelines is what's driving the conversation from pediatricians to their patients. And all of that was driven and based on Dr. Lack's research. So for the most part, when we talk with pediatricians, they know about the research. Many of them have heard about Dr. Lack, which obviously provides incredible credibility for us and our mission. But ultimately, it's not just about, the pediatricians being up to speed on the research. You really need to get that new mom and dad comfortable and get them focused on it to lead them to the product.
Is that on the brand, the packaging? At the time, I don't remember looking for it.
We do have it as part of our founder story on the back, but Tony, it's interesting. We are trying to walk a very nice balance on our package, and really through all of our marketing messaging as well, to where we talk about the functional benefits, or we talk about the research. We talk about Dr. Lack being involved. But we don't want it to come across overly medical or clinical. And the real goal of our mission here is to just make it super normal for these sorts of foods to be in infant diets. And frankly, right, to do that in a scalable, really culture shifting way, there have to be tons of people who are out there buying it, even if it's not specifically for this purpose. So we try to have a nice balance there where we talk about our founding story. We're so honored to be partnered with Dr. Lack and all the incredible work that he and his team have done. But we want it to be done in a way where it's not overly clinical. And we don't want it to feel like medicine. So we kind of, walk this balance of, hey, have you heard about the research? While at the same time, pointing people to just the benefits of the product outside of the function.
Do either you or Catherine go on any kind of a speaking tour, or do you go on any kind of, talk shows, anything like that? Because you have kind of an interesting founder story. And of course, for those that don't know Catherine and her backstory, I mean, has some ins, in television.
Yeah. And, we probably should do a lot more of that, Tony, because, being out there and being in front of people is, of course, helpful for the brand. And Catherine is so good at it, too, because she's just such a great communicator and she's so relatable with other moms, I feel like, because, we're parents of 3 kids and, doing everything that parents have to do with those 3 little kids. And so we probably should be doing more of it. To be honest, the amount of time required to do everything that parents do and to be building a business and everything around it
out. And it's like,
right.
Oh, he's right. We should be doing that, but you don't want to shoot yourself to death either,
No, it's hard. Look, and it's
you were at Expo West.
We were at Expo West.
How did that go? That's an expensive endeavor. You want to talk about that a little bit?
It was, it was expensive, but it was really our what we felt like was an important kickoff to talking with retailers. And as I mentioned before, we had pushed out all retail conversations, because we launched right in the teeth of the pandemic. And Expo really helped us just get out there in one big bang and start the dialogue. And to that, for that purpose, it was really helpful. I can also tell you, as we were talking about, having 3 kids and trying to, balance everything with them, it happened to be their spring break from school, the same week of Expo West. And so as many parents, think about the balance of work and, being trying to be a great mom and dad and everything, we, as often is the case with us, we just smashed it all together and we brought all the kids to Expo West, and you should have seen them, Tony.
Funny.
They were working the booth. They're now, we have a 13-year-old daughter, a 12-year-old daughter, and an 8-year-old son. And our little guy, in a cape handing out flyers was probably one of the most wonderful things I've seen on this journey. And our older daughters were literally pulling people to the side and talking with them about the products and why we were doing it. And it's really, become a
there's
real
the secret
family
sauce,
mission.
everybody listening. What you need is a 13-year-old, a 12-year-old, and an 8-year-old working your booth.
They're hard to resist. I will tell you, I'm a little biased, but they're hard to resist.
Well, and what a great experience for them to walk a little bit in your shoes, and for them to see what it means to work hard and be passionate about something you really believe in.
Well, they've definitely seen that. In some respects, Catherine and I worry that sometimes they see it a little too much because the business requires so much. But I do think it's good for them. I will say they lasted about, for anyone who's been to Expo West, how just how crazy it is. There's so many people. It's a tiring experience. And the kids lasted, I think it was about a day and a half in the booth. And then we turned and looked and saw that our little guy was rolling around on the floor in the back of the booth. And that's when we said, okay, it's time to get them out of here. They did end up getting a little time at Disneyland right there, which was the hook, kind of the carrot that we dangled out in front of them the whole time. So
that's great. Well, what other, challenges have you had more recently, not not the retail side, but in DTC? Has it been with, I don't know, the FDA? Has it been with packaging? I'm just curious, what the big kind of hurdle right now that you're working on?
Well, as you know, Tony, and probably most of these listeners, your listeners know, everything's hard. There's always something, or as Catherine and I heard from actually a supplier recently who said, don't say there's always something, just recognize that there's never nothing. So there's always there's always something that, needs to be done or that we can improve on. And we're constantly trying to improve. For DTC specifically, the landscape is shifting. It's, no surprise to a lot of people that, where you're having to be nimble in terms of what's working and what's not. We've managed to continue to bring down our customer acquisition costs, which we're, really proud of. And the gap between our customer acquisition costs and our lifetime value has continued to improve. We're at about a 5 times rate now of customer lifetime value to customer acquisition cost, and we find that what we're having the most success with is just doing things to encourage customers to stay longer. Moving people to subscription has been really important for us, despite our growth, and we've had significant growth. We've been able to maintain about in a range around 17% of our revenue comes from subscription, and we found that when we make it easy for parents, that they stick because the products are great. The hard part that we found with DTC is that for a lot of busy moms and dads, frankly, they're shopping more in the store than they are online. And this is part of our, rationale for making a strong move into retail, so we can just make it easy for parents out there. But moving people towards subscription is something that's been really helpful for us in improving our lifetime value.
Well, as that journey continues and you do get more into retail, we'll definitely have to have you come back on, and maybe we'll bring Catherine too. Maybe we'll do a live stream. They're kind of fun too, where we can look at the product and maybe bring on one of your 2-legged mascots,
Well, we would love that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Well, so missionmightyme.com, that's the best place for people to go. And then, of course, on Amazon, they can just search for it there as well.
That's exactly
right. You can
right.
buy the end of it. Before we go, though, what are the different flavors again?
So the first product we launched is just a classic peanut butter puff. All of our products are very similar to traditional rice puffs in that they're small, quick dissolve little puffs. But our first product is more than 50% peanut. They're delicious. The second product that we launched includes peanut, but it's also got almond, cashew, walnut, and this beautiful hazelnut butter that is delicious. Tiny little bit of cinnamon. And then the 2 flavors that we most recently launched were a peanut butter strawberry and a peanut butter banana. So the peanut butter strawberry is kind of our take on a PB&J, no added sugar, and we actually use real banana and real strawberry, if you can believe it. We're not using any artificial flavors, but we actually don't even use any natural flavors, just the real thing. So those 4 flavors come in a multiple variety packs and so forth that are on our website and on Amazon.
I love the idea of going to subscription. And I think once the parents can see that the kids like it and that they want to add it to their diet, they can stagger it out just at the right frequency. So you now know who your customers are, right? You get a better idea of that profile, and it kind of tides them over, I guess, until you get into retail. JJ, it's been great. It's been great getting to know you a little bit better and hearing about Eufaula and Mission Mighty Me and Dr. Was it Gideon?
Gideon Lack. That's right.
Gideon Lack.
Exactly.
Lack.
I was the man who discovered peanut allergy can be prevented.
Yes. Well, that is certainly impressive work to come up with that. Well, it's great talking to you today here on Winning at Work. I'm sure we'll have some more conversations as we go, and as we watch the brand expand.
Well, thanks so much, Tony. Really appreciate you having me and helping us spread the word about Mission Mighty Me.
Well, it's an important cause. I'm glad to have you here on the platform.
Thanks so much, Tony.